Good morning, everybody. Tuesday morning, and we have a group of rock stars, minus myself, and we'll give Trenton an A minus. The rest get A pluses in today's stream. We've got Carrie, Thomas, Trenton, Kat, and you know me. Sorry you have to continue to see me. We're not going away anytime soon, so get used to it. With that, Trenton, take it away, my friend.
I have been looking forward to this conversation for so long. I am so excited to bring this group together to have this conversation because this is a stressful time. Teachers are rightfully stressed out. They're not exactly sure in many parts of the country how school's even going to start in the fall. And in many, many cases, I think people are feeling that that sense of it's highly likely that I'm not going back to school in the fall, that we are going to be doing some remote learning, and I need some tools and resources to be able to make that work. And Canvas is obviously an incredible tool for teachers to be working remotely. I think a lot of people had a chance to experience that in the spring. I think a lot of people have spent the summer preparing for the fall. And it may be, that yes, you end up starting out remote. It may be that you're in an environment where you're doing partial remote and partial on-site, a blended model with your students. And it might be that you're going back. Either way, Canvas is an incredible resource, but it can also be a little overwhelming. So we have brought the experts to the table to allay fears and concerns and to talk about places where you should start and how to keep it simple or how to go completely nuts and make it just wild and crazy and incredible. So before we jump into that, I'm going to let everybody introduce themselves. I hope everybody's the same on your screens. We're going to start with Carrie and then go to Thomas and then Kat. You're up, Carrie.
Oh, sorry. I'm Carrie, a little behind. No, I work in the Blue Valley School District in Overland Park, Kansas. I am a district coordinator for blended learning. So before, my focus was bringing those instructional tools into the classroom and then using them in a strategic way to enhance what our teachers were already doing and make it just better with technology. And obviously my focus has shifted now. And now I'm just thinking about how I can support teachers in the move to potentially a hybrid, potentially in person, but then moving to remote and then back again. And so Canvas has been a wonderful tool for both of those instances for us, being able to use it as a blended learning tool in the classroom, but then being able to then shift and use it remotely as well. So I also started a little Facebook group. Don't know if you guys have heard about it. Little. Actually, we're at 59K right now. So if I can get to 60 before this is over, I'd be super pumped. But yeah, and so from that, apparently I've become an expert in being able to be invited on this today. But I have personally learned a ton from that group, and it's been exciting to see teachers get excited about the fall, even if it's like through creating a Bitmoji classroom or putting your efforts into thinking about how you can use Canvas. I think so many of us have dreaded what the fall looks like. And it's been cool to see this kind of be a little bit of a glimmer of hope of what we might be able to take joy away from in the fall. So sorry, that was rambling. And
no, that's great. That's great. Thomas.
Yeah, hi, my name's Thomas. I'm a solutions engineer at Instructure, which is just kind of a fancy way of saying I help our sales team throughout the sales process with technical and curricular questions that districts that are looking at Canvas might have. I've worked at Instructure for over 5 years now in different roles. Prior to being a solutions engineer, I was actually a principal consultant helping with having districts adopt Canvas and getting teachers on board. I'm actually a certified change manager. Prior to working at Instructure, I actually worked at a school that implemented Canvas back in 2010. So I think we were like customer number 7 back then. So I've seen Canvas grow and change throughout this time for the better. And it's just so exciting to see kind of all of the progress that we've made. So I'm hoping to bring a little bit of that experience to the table today for this conversation.
Nice. Kat.
Well, hello. And I always like to begin, that is my real name. So my mom has the same name. My grandma has the same name. So I had to say Kat as opposed to Catherine. But I married into Flippen. So, when you're, and I'll tell you, as a high school teacher, I was a high school teacher for the majority of my career at the biggest high school in the state of Georgia. So shout out to Mill Creek High School. I had so much fun as a high school teacher with that last name. So much fun. But I have since then experienced literally every like learning management system, like D2L Brightspace, Schoology, Moodle, things like Haiku Learning back in the day. Like there's a bunch, and I've admin them. And I have to say, Canvas has been a huge, huge win. And I love being the admin for my district. So I'm in Jackson County Schools, which is about an hour and 15 minutes northeast of Atlanta. And we don't consider ourselves Metro Atlanta yet, but urban sprawl is a real thing. Before that, guys, I guess I did the kind of quasi-millennial thing where you kind of you just follow the path of your career. And I've been very, very blessed. I'm a Google certified innovator, an educator, and also a trainer. I am a Canvas advocate, which I love as well. I only go for the stuff that I love with ed tech programs. And I've really enjoyed doing some of the sessions for y'all, and my email keeps on blowing up. I discovered, by the way, that I had 30, 40 emails from people in my spam. So I apologize if I have not written you back. I am not I I'm not seeing your message till literally yesterday morning. So I will get back to you, I promise. Lots of people have questions. So y'all, I will say, as again, former teacher coming into this, I lead professional learning in my district. I do all the instructional technology, all the single sign-on, all the geeky stuff. I love what Canvas can do. So, and I'm looking forward to talking about some of the amazing things you can do from a beginner level all the way up to for the uber geeky people. We got you.
Yeah, I told you we have experts. We have the very best of the best. And, I want to highlight a couple things like Carrie, the Facebook group Canvas for Elementary. It has blown up. And I think what you did is you started a movement in a lot of ways. And you gave a safe space for almost 60,000 educators. And one of the most common things that I see in there is stress and anxiety of people who are saying, oh my gosh, we've started to really use Canvas, and I've done a little bit of training, but I feel overwhelmed. And I almost feel like in some ways people expect to just get it all done at once, as opposed to evolving with it. And that movement, I will say I joined quite a while ago. I've never contributed anything. I leave that to Thomas as the expert. But the contribution that I get out of that group and just seeing what people are doing, seeing K-5 educators evolve, the way that people are utilizing Canvas in meaningful ways. I love the innovation of educators, but I'm also just blown away by the time and energy that people are devoting this summer to preparing themselves for the fall. And Thomas, I want to say, when we talk about SEs, really what they are is they're the people who know everything. They just know everything about the product because they have to. And that deep knowledge is so important. And later I'm going to have Thomas show you a course that they created for a first grade class that I think is just so lovely when we talk about how to use this product. There's a million different ways you can do it. But I want to get across to people today that it can be simple. And as you grow with it, you'll evolve. And I think, Kat, your points are really great in terms of, the being an administrator, watching teachers kind of evolve with the program, understanding that one of the downsides to having a tool that can do so much is that it can do so much, and makes it harder. So I want to start here. Here's my first question for you guys, and we're going to start with Kat. We're going to work our way the other way with then Thomas and Carrie. But I want to
last this time. Thanks.
We know Kat. I believe you're ready.
Sure.
But I want to start with this question, which is one of my concerns is that that a lot of the way teachers have responded to Canvas has been out of stress, anxiety, necessity, going out. And I don't want people to miss out on the idea that Canvas is not a COVID tool.
No.
It is a classroom tool that we should be using whether we're face-to-face with our students or not. I would love to get your kind of thoughts on that, because I worry that some people are like, I guess I'll do this while this is going on, but when it goes away, then I don't have to do it anymore. What do you say to teachers who may be thinking that?
Well, we are in 2020, and most of us are one-to-one, if not heading in that direction. And yes, we should not be using technology all the time. That is an inappropriate use. No, don't use technology just for the sake of it, right? And don't use technology as a babysitter. Granted, everybody has human moments, right? But what's nice is even you can have your human moments, but still have a really great lesson planned out in Canvas to cover those. A learning management system is something that you have to have as a centralized location for all your digital stuff, right? Yeah. I'm sure that you have your OneDrive or your Google Drive. It is just chock full of stuff. And imagine if you're overwhelmed looking at that, imagine how your students feel and then how their parents feel too. So even just during distance learning the end of last spring, right? We had so many parents who were like, I just don't know, like I need a one-stop shop. Or that was for the stuff people who hadn't yet adopted Canvas, because we're district without mandates. We really do want people to adopt it just because they want to intrinsically. But imagine if you had one place, even if it was just a starting point for some things. And sometimes Canvas is just a starting point or a jump out, but with all the integrations and everything there, you can make that your home. It becomes your digital home for your classroom, which is why I love seeing the whole Bitmoji classroom piece. That is where you're going to live digitally, even if you're face-to-face with the kid or even if you're not. It doesn't matter. That's where you can go. So you know Harry Wong, right? The book where I think it's the first thing that he talked about with the first days of schools is
first day of school.
Right. Kids want to know, where do I go? Like, where do I sit? Yeah. And if you don't have that as an online place too, if you don't have a landing spot, a place where kids know every day, that's my digital spot, those kids are going to get lost too. And so why would you lose that opportunity to catch focus and help direct them in the right places to make sure they're staying on task, as opposed to getting lost in the ether of the internet? Why would you lose that? I think that not only will it help you have everything organized year after year, but it'll help your students too, and keep everything much more efficient and focused. And then you can focus on the more important stuff like learning and relationships.
Yeah, I like that. Thomas, what are your thoughts?
I can remember, I've helped many districts implement Canvas, and one kind of onsite that I went to sticks out to me when we talk about this topic. The admin, I had gone through extensive training and, empowering the admin to feel good about conveying this message to their teachers, and teachers were just kind of backfiring. I feel like this is another thing added to my plate, and you could see this light bulb go off in the admin and say, and they said, no, it's not another thing added to your plate. Canvas is the plate. Canvas is the plate that you add all of these things to. It's the glue that brings in all of these tools, all of these powerful things you're already using in one concise manner, where you have the power to organize it and make it exactly how you want your students and parents, for that matter, to be able to experience it. So I totally agree when we kind of talk about these Bitmoji classrooms and how amazing it is. But I put myself in the shoes of somebody who's maybe never utilized a system like this, and it's just like, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start. Kind of taking a step back and really defining goals that are for that individual teacher, how you want to utilize the system, and maybe even taking a step even further back and saying, what am I currently doing in my classroom right now that I can move to this online platform and manage it in a different way. So that's kind of where my brain goes, is kind of that.
Yeah, I love that. Carrie?
Yeah, I like, kind of to Kat's point, like you think about like, what are the anxieties you feel in a normal classroom? It is, where am I going to sit? Especially like lunchtime, right? Where am I going to sit on the first day of school at lunch? We don't want our kids to come into our Canvas courses and it increase their anxiety. We want to bring that down. And I think that is something that the Bitmoji craze kind of does, is when a student comes to that landing page, it's kind of like, oh yeah, there's my teacher. It just feels better. I kind of keep describing it as almost like the welcome mat.
Right.
And then it's kind of like, you got to then look beyond that welcome mat. And then what happens next? And again, if a student then gets there and has no idea where to click, or no idea what's expected of them, no idea when something is due or when they're supposed to do it, then you've increased that anxiety, even though that wasn't your intent, because you wanted them to feel welcomed in that space. So I think you do have to then kind of pair that cute. And I'm a former art teacher, guys, so I love the pretty. I love the visual aesthetic. But then you have to take it to that next layer of what are they actually going to do? How are they going to interact? And then kind of go from there. And I mean, speaking to the like blended piece, that is like where I want to live. Just in the sense of Canvas can be the perfect tool for you to clone yourself as a teacher. I mean, with the video options and being able to curate resources for your students, you can then take that station that you'd be sitting behind that kidney table. You can still do that. And then basically clone yourself almost another kidney table with devices. And even if you're not one-to-one, you can be working in person with some students, and then they're working on devices over here, and then you rotate. And it can be a really great tool for station rotation as well.
Yeah, and I love that you're putting that in the context of the classroom, and which is something I really want to highlight. Like, I really don't want people like looking at this and saying, this is what we do in remote learning. This is what we do in learning. Both Kat and Carrie hit on this. And one of the things that when I first came to Instructure, my kids were in, my son was in college, my daughter was in high school. They both used Canvas, and they both had a very different perspective on how Canvas was being used. For my daughter, it created a tremendous amount of stress and anxiety. For my son, it was like, this is great. Like, if I don't even have to go to class if I don't want to, which is not acceptable, but that was the way he viewed the world. But my daughter really saw it as creating stress because there was no consistency in the way their teachers used it. Each class had a different experience. Everything was about trying to find, for her, it was, where's my grade? I just need to figure out how do I find my grade in this whole thing? And so we've talked about this in some of our earlier live streams when we talk about the fundamental 5. It really goes to what Carrie and Kat were talking about, which is what stresses kids out most during this whole remote learning exercise. What stressed out kids and parents the most? It was not knowing what I'm supposed to do. It was not knowing when things are due or if they were due, right? It's not knowing how they did. Or were they getting feedback and support? So those fundamental issues, right? Of, how did I do? What am I supposed to do? When is it due? How did I do? Can you help me? Is there a way to get support? And then the last one is, are there other ways I can show you that I've learned? It doesn't have to just be a traditional environment. That's what Canvas does. It should, when we think about it, it should be about how do we take those stresses, those things that create anxiety in our students, and create an environment where we're doing what you all are talking about. We're giving them that window into the classroom. We see what's going on. And so I want to hit on this thing next. Sorry for that little diatribe, but you guys were there and you hit on those things. I think it's so important because I care so much about the end user who are our students. Like, I don't want to abuse kids. We've got to have teachers who see this for what it is and totally get it. But I'm going to frame it this way, Thomas, and you're going to go first this time. Carrie, you're going to be second. Be ready.
I'm ready.
But I want to talk a little bit about the Bitmoji craze. I probably should have started with Carrie because I absolutely, when I started seeing the Bitmoji stuff, I was like giddy. I was like, oh my gosh, I could totally get into that. But I was an elementary school teacher. And I remember when I first started teaching, I went into my classroom. I was like overwhelmed, like, oh my God, I can't believe they gave me a classroom. What do I do? Well, I'm going to organize my desks. Am I going to put them in tables? I'm going to do rows. Maybe I could do like I just wanted to be cool. And then I went nuts on my bulletin board. I'm putting on my bulletin boards and I'm doing these things, and I couldn't afford borders. So when the other teachers were like, we have borders, do you want to borrow them? I was like, no, I think borders are dumb. I wasn't a good collaborator. I couldn't even admit, like, I would love some borders, but I can't afford them, and I'm too prideful to even accept your borders. It's so sad. But then the first day of school came, and I was like, ooh, maybe I should have spent a little more time getting ready, right? Like, and so there is a balance in here as we start to design the work that we're doing, that, like Carrie, you were saying, there's got to be stuff behind that initial work that is supporting kids. Thomas, I want you to talk about that from your experience as you work with teachers. How do we strike that balance so that people don't feel so overwhelmed trying to get everything looking pretty first before really understanding the importance of getting the content and structure?
Yeah, I think, one of the things Canvas prides ourselves on are the ability to meet teachers where they're at, right? So if you're already, creating these Bitmoji classrooms, kind of like Carrie said, the welcome mat into your classroom, you're going to have no problem getting in Canvas and doing great things and embedding those items and kind of hitting the ground running. Kind of like I said before, if you have a new teacher that is, a little bit wary of maybe starting something new, there are other entry points into Canvas that allow for easy access and ease of use, where then you can work up to maybe those Bitmoji classrooms. I like you, I was so excited when I saw first there was there's like a Bitmoji plus Canvas equals happiness or something. I'm a part of that. I'm a part of Carrie's group, and it just got me so excited. The first thing that I did was create a Bitmoji so I could use these as examples, right? But that doesn't have to be the first point. I think like you said, that's not everything. And some things that I try and relay to teachers is, don't let the perfection of what you want your Canvas classroom to get in the way of your progress of teaching, of actually utilizing the system, right? It's super easy to get in there and create a list or create, just buttons out to the things that you're already doing, and utilizing what you're already doing as an entry point sometimes kind of makes that teacher that's a little bit wary of starting kind of more at ease, right? So they can focus on the what am I going to do with my students, rather than just kind of that front mat of what it looks like. So although I love the Bitmoji classroom, don't let it intimidate you if you're a brand new teacher, right? Make sure to remember that we can really meet you where you're at when you're building these classrooms.
And it might be something where you just have a goal. Like,
right.
Bitmoji might not be where I'm gonna start this year, but as you get more comfortable, and maybe next year I'm gonna dive that way, and maybe somewhere down the road you're like, wow, this isn't as hard as I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, but if I put my change manager hat on, that makes my heart happy, right? If your district maybe isn't setting goals or as I don't know, speed bumps or things that you should be doing, that is not stopping you from creating those on your own, right? I'm a person that loves me some SMART goals, right? Set up some SMART goals and, challenge yourself to do different things in Canvas, and you can, work off of that progress. Because, when you get Canvas for the first time and maybe you're being told, use Canvas, that can be really intimidating and you don't know where to start. So kind of, again, taking a step back and kind of taking note of what you currently do and then reforming that into your Canvas class, I would say is a good practice.
So I want to hit you on this same question, Carrie, but I want to just kind of put it in a different perspective, because there are a lot of people, whether you're, teach elementary school, middle school, high school, or even college, that are looking for these resources that of help. So as we're talking about these same things, the one thing that I love most about what the Canvas for Elementary group has done is that they're a group, and the amount of support, the kindness, the willingness of people to kind of jump in and offer advice. Like I mean, you see kind of the same questions come up all the time. I've never seen anybody say, well, geez, you should have read through some of the thread before you posted something. Like people do. It's not like that, And so you have created this space for people that is probably doing more to help teachers evolve safely without the fear of I got to ask somebody inside my district. I've got to go to a specific training, but I actually have a place where I can go. Talk about what you've seen accomplished there and how that fits into this piece of where do I start? Doesn't have to be overwhelming. Talk about that.
Absolutely. Well, there are a lot of people that will share their border with you. That's all I'm going to
That is true.
No, that has been like the coolest thing to come out of this group and I think being at home, like literally I am stuck here most days with my 3 kids, just kind of waiting for my husband to get home so I can have another adult contact. And I think that's what's been so cool about the group is that there is that sense of community. You can get on there, be vulnerable and ask a question that might be a dumb question and know you're going to get a response back and get a lot of help from a lot of teachers around the country. Even I think we have some across the ocean, which is just so awesome. And because it gives you that, I guess, kind of boost to be at the starting line rather than like way back here and not even sure you can ever get to that starting line. It gives you those borders. It gives you the templates. People are so willing to share that you then can kind of quickly catch up to where your teammates or what you're seeing in the group and then be able to shift that focus to the instruction. And that's probably the next thing I've seen out of this group. So I have seen kind of our Bitmoji posts kind of trail off a little bit and more people are now asking, okay, so what do I now put in a module? How do I use this? And I just keep thinking, what would you have done in your classroom? Okay, now how can you take that and make it be online? And I think something that is a little bit of a roadblock for teachers is I've put it online. My student needs to be on that computer or iPad or Chromebook all day long. But I think we can take those same hands-on activities that we would have asked our students to do in class and find a way for them to do that activity and then provide evidence of that learning. And it could be through a video. It could be through posting just a picture of an illustration they've drawn or a diagram they've created. And that's what's nice about Canvas is it allows for different types of submission. So a student could choose how they want to submit that and have some choice in how they're going to show that learning. And I don't think it has to be like, I've sat in front of my computer and done this. It can be, I've gone offline, I've created and done something, and now I'm going to show you what I've done. And maybe that's even just a video of them talking about what they've done. And the teacher may not even be able to see all the details of what it was. But hearing that student explain that process and explain their learning, I think can be so powerful when we don't have the opportunity to be in person with our students.
I love that. And to me, that's a more authentic way of evaluating student work. And kids are there to be able to share that with you. Kat, what is your take on all of this?
Well, there's a lot of barriers when you first jump into Canvas. It's always very, very scary for people because the beautiful thing about Canvas is it's a blank canvas. Like, do you want something that really constrains you? Now, granted, constraint breeds creativity. Like I heard that Lord years ago, and it has stuck with me ever since. So I understand that being let open into the wild world of Canvas is very, very daunting. Especially you have barriers like a cross listing. So if you have sections within your courses, it's always very confusing when you have 20 courses and you don't know why you have 20 courses. Of course, Google Classroom, which is one of my best friends, right? So. But those things should not ever hold you back from trying. You have places you can go, and I don't know if it's just difficult for people to ask for help. Or you just feel like you don't have the time. I do think that sometimes people feel like they just don't have the time or the bandwidth, or they're just, especially this year for preparing for potential remote learning, and you're just trying to be like at the ready at all times. The thing is yes, there might be a little work up front, but once you get it done, you get it done. And then there are so many people who are willing to share. I know that there's another Facebook group for secondary that has been created for Canvas, and of course the Canvas community itself, which I believe is going to be rebooted soon or redone soon in some way. But regardless, the Canvas community is a wonderful place to go to. And of course, Twitter or social media, people are willing to share so much. And I mean, even just through the comments, it's just finding it and putting it in there, not being afraid to play and go in there. And one of my favorite things to tell people and teachers is it's okay to look messy. It's okay to not be perfect. Whatever you're building on your front page, if it looks like 1999 Angel Fire or GeoCities, that's okay. Right? That's okay right now because your course is not published.
Yeah.
Right? Or maybe the page you're working on is not published. No one has to see that you're still learning. I love the fact that we have it single sign-on so we have a Google authentication. We have everything set up with one roster, so your courses are there. Your kids are rostered every night. They come in and out. You don't have to worry about adding your kids. Like we take out that barrier. the technology barrier, the administration barrier, right? A really good instructional technology should remove those barriers from instruction itself. So now you're there, your kids are there, you're ready to go. They're going to be logging on. It doesn't matter if they just see a front page with a link out somewhere. You're using it. That's a start in the right direction. And then you can ask for help. Don't just wait until everything is built out and you're good to go. Start right from the start, and just try to get something out there. So it's just, I don't know if it's a time or if the technical skill, but everybody has the skill to do this, or if it's asking for help. But there's always ways around every barrier, and just getting that information out there and helping people understand that there are people who can help you, I think will alleviate a ton of stress for people.
Yeah. And I have like 35 questions that keep coming up that I'm like, we could do this all day long. And I'm feeling this like disappointment of knowing we don't have all day to do this. But I also think it's important because we usually talk about leadership in this environment, how important it is from a leader's perspective to look at things like blueprint courses, creating those templates, providing your teachers with some ready-made resources. We've talked in our virtual leadership series, Kat, you've been a part of that, about, this balance between, leaders providing those resources, but then also giving that flexibility. Kat, Carrie, you're part of that too, because I remember when we had this conversation about leaders saying, I want to give my teachers templates. And I could almost see Carrie's face kind of going, I'm cool with a template so long as that's like a baseline and I can work up from there. I don't want anybody to give me something and then take away. Like, there are leadership elements to some of this, but I want to answer Inga's question on which I think is really important, because people have a hard time on how do you answer the need for an LMS versus Google site. We've mentioned Google, and there's a real value there. How do you address that? Who wants to take that one? I'll leave that one open. Okay, Kat.
Again, I'm real passionate about this. I love Google. I used it probably when we weren't supposed to use it back in the day, right? When you couldn't control your kids and couldn't see revision history. And man, I have some great stories on that one. But it was a great tool to use as an educator. But it's just, let's look at Google site. That's very static content, right? And it's also very public content. So while it's nice to have a presence that is public and static, sure, it's not as flexible as what an LMS can bring you, and it's not as secure as what an LMS can bring you. So I'm able to share a lot more information in what's kind of like a walled garden almost, right? You can make courses public, definitely. I've shared some here with Canvas that are public, but I like having the comfort of sharing things that only my students and their parents can see, right? And really can doing it on the fly. A Google site is not really made for being on the fly, changing. It's very static. I'm not able to post a discussion post or discussion board. I think discussion boards, people feel are very, again, like early 2000s. They're not. There's something that's always there that really should be leveraged more often. Like, there's always those tools that carry on throughout the ages. This is one of them. In both Classroom and Sites, they don't have that. I know Classroom has that feed. That's not a discussion board, y'all. You can't have like threaded replies ad nauseum and then grade it and even do peer review just by checking a box. And you don't have to go through as a teacher and look at, okay, well, this person did 2, this person did 2. It automatically does it for you. So not only is it more efficient, but it's more flexible to what you need day by day. And it's also less work in the long run. And it will travel with you very easily thanks to IMS Global Consortium and Common Cartridge. It's a little difficult to carry Classroom. Classroom, actually, you can't carry with you. And Sites, you have to make sure you go to a Google district in order to use Sites. So,
yeah.
Well, I had someone ask me, how would I do a discussion with like a kindergartner or first grader? And that is what's so cool about discussions is it has the rich content editor. So a student can literally post a video. They don't have to be able to type. I mean, they have to be able to navigate to click the button to get to the video, but then they can listen to each other talk and have a little bit of that interaction, whether it's, virtually or not. But it is friendly for our younger learners as well.
right.
I also think of the marriage between Google items and all of the other tools that you use, right? It's very restricting in other systems to be able to do that in Canvas because we're open and allow you to pull those other tools in. It's very easy for you to have a Google slide deck next to a Khan Academy video, next to a Nearpod activity, next to a Canvas discussion. So very easily the teacher can curate that. And the other thing, this is kind of bordering an admin talk, so I won't go too quick. But the analytics that happen behind the scenes, right? Teachers know when their students have signed in. Teachers know what students are doing, and that can kind of go up the chain, if you will. I know I'm working with an entity right now that's asking, how are we going to track kind of this new form attendance, right? Well, in Canvas, all that data is there, where in other systems it might not be. So just another kind of my 2 cents there.
Okay, so thank you for that. And thank you, Inga, for asking the question. I know there's a million questions over here. We're not going to get to all of them, unfortunately. But I want to end on one final question for all of you, which is, what advice do you give people who are just starting? What advice do you give for people who maybe feel stuck or feel like inadequate? But I would like to start with you, Thomas, and I would also like you to share. I mentioned earlier we were going to have you share kind of a simple course that I think in a way gives us at least a visual representation of when we talk about what's a good place to start, what might that look like. And the reason why I love this course, can you share it, Thomas?
Yeah.
The reason why I love this course is because it's so darn simple, you know, and it registers with me, you know, like I really like it. There's not a lot going on, but in terms of what's there, it kind of covers the base. So Thomas, maybe answer that question. What advice do you give, and maybe do it within that kind of context?
I would say my first piece of advice, learning that you're going to use Canvas, is take a deep breath. Everything's going to be good. Congratulations for becoming a part of the Canvas family. We have tools in place at every level that will help and support you throughout your use. As a teacher, on every single page in Canvas, there's a help button. Utilize it. I think back to, before working at Canvas and clicking on the help button of any tool, and it kind of led me down a dark black hole, right? And I was more confused going out of it than I was going into it. That is not how Canvas help and support is. I promise you. Click on those support links and it'll give you things like the guides, the training portal, videos, how-to videos. So very quickly you can, learn how to utilize the system. Then the next piece of advice is utilize templates as a base, right? Like Carrie said, don't let that kind of dictate what you're doing, but utilize it as a jumping off point. What we see here is actually a template that was made available to this district, and the teacher was able to literally drag and drop these items onto the content page. They were able to link these different items to things that the teacher actually then populated. So for this, the first thing on Monday that the student sees is a welcome video from their teacher. So building that community from afar. Notice at the bottom, we can click on next. It's just a seamless experience for students to get to the next item. This happens to be a worksheet that would typically be given on paper, in the classroom. Well, because I'm using a mobile, actually annotate all over this. So I can annotate using my finger on these things. So again, step back and think of the things that you're currently doing and ask yourself how you can pull those into Canvas. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You don't need to start from scratch. Utilize the tools that you have in conjunction with the help and support that we have available. And the last thing that I'll say, I know we're running out of time, but the last thing I'll say is if you are a specialty teacher, electives teacher, oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you as well. In this example, we have their own courses. That's a district decision. I'll just quickly get into this PE class. This Coach Wood is actually kind of a famous coach on YouTube. I don't know if you've ever seen him, but I've just added his videos in here to show you kind of an example of what this could look like for a PE teacher. So creating these items like an assignment on how to do a burpee and how many burpees that you've done in 1 minute, and then submit your number. It's just so intuitive, and being able to utilize it for whatever you're wanting it to utilize it. So take a step back and think of what you're doing, and then kind of map out how you can organize that in Canvas.
That was lovely. That was really lovely, Thomas. And hopefully as people see that, those people who can see it, hopefully that gives them some visual. The thing I like about that is if I was a parent or a student, I've got some pretty simple things to go after there. The other thing that I love is those buttons. I've seen people in the Canvas for Elementary group who are making buttons like as a hobby, you know, and just cranking out like buttons and like, hey, take my buttons, these, you know, and sharing them in Google Docs. Like, it has been wild. Carrie, what advice do you give people?
Yeah, by the way, Thomas, that was fantastic. I loved that. And I loved the videos, like just putting your face on the screen. Sorry. But my advice is like, again, take a deep breath, start simple. Like the things you're seeing people post, that has taken them some understanding of Canvas to get to. And that's kind of my other piece is before you dive into creating that homepage, take some time to figure out like, when would I use a page? When would I use a module? When would I use a discussion? When would I use an assignment, et cetera, and kind of get that big picture view and then go into your homepage. When you then kind of understand the pieces, you can then bring it all together with that homepage. And just to give a small little shout out, in our group, we have a Canvas camp out that my co-admin, Lindsay Hallett, and I created. And it basically does that. We start looking at all the components, and we used a lot of the Canvas videos, but kind of in our structure of figuring out all the pieces. And then the last piece of that is bringing it all together. Because when you have a bigger understanding, you're going to then provide your students with a better experience instead of kind of starting with the pretty and starting with that homepage, kind of that backwards design.
Yeah. Kat, you get the final, I'll take the last word, obviously, but I'm going to be the final word here.
Well, all right. So new people and old people, right? So you're looking at me thinking about this. When you first go into Canvas, especially if you're new, and you open a class for the first time, there's a reason why Canvas starts with modules, right? Keep that open and look at that for a second. And then I want you to open up Drive or OneDrive, or even just pull out a piece of paper and just think about what's your first week, what's your lesson plan look like, right? Start gathering some things, just write it out. Say, okay, well, I want to give this assignment. I want to, push this out with, if it was Classroom, but if you have Google Assignments or Course Kit, that would work too. It doesn't matter what it is. It does not matter what you're trying to push out. You can do that in Canvas. So don't limit yourself. If design thinking requires us to think without constraints. So don't think about time. Don't think about what you can and cannot do. Don't think about anything or file. I know some people have file upload limits. Trust me when I say that doesn't matter that much. Just write down, these are the things I want my kids to do. And then look at that modules and click that plus and just make it week 1, lesson 1, unit 1, and then start adding stuff. Plus signs do things in Canvas. They add things. So add something and do a link out. Like go piece by piece. I think modules is a great way to start, but also think about what you already have and plan on a piece of paper if you need to, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but don't worry about having a pretty homepage from the start. That can come. But go ahead and be thinking about, what do I need to get in front of my kids quickly that would be really easy for them to access right when they log in. And so that's a great place to start, I feel, is right there with the modules and just a piece of paper planning out your week 1, week 2. We all, as teachers, we are very, very guilty of not planning ahead, right? And what's nice about Canvas is you can plan ahead, but you don't have to. If you are on the fly, it's easy to post something and get it out there too, even if it's not pretty right now. Again, everything is controlled by publishing and unpublishing stuff, so your kids won't see the mess. But start writing down what you have, how you want to organize things, make a folder in Drive if you want to, or OneDrive, and go from there. It's easier than you think it is, and once you start planning that, everything else will fall into place.
Awesome. Well, it has been so lovely to talk to you guys. I feel like we just got started. Like, yeah. I do regret that we don't have more time. I want to throw in a little bit of advice too, because I can't help it. I want to, right off of what you said, Kat, that to me, what I hope that you're doing as educators is you're remembering that this is a conduit to your students, that the what you create is really about providing a link to the learning opportunities for students. And I would hope that you would collaborate within your own schools, with your peers, if you're a leader, that you are leading teachers in this endeavor, that you're working together to try to create some consistent experiences for our students, so that we are utilizing this tool in a time of stress to alleviate stress, as opposed to in a time of stress creating stress. And we talk a lot about these kinds of things from the Center for Leadership and Learning in our virtual learning series. Kat and Carrie, you've been an amazing part of that group. We meet 4 times. We bring a cohort of educators together from around the country, And the cohort that we've had, this last cohort, has been amazing. Like, I feel I didn't know how much I missed interacting with educators. And it's been such an amazing experience. If any of you are interested in our next cohort, Mark has put up some information on the screen. I don't know if Kat or Carrie, if you want to say anything, you don't have to, but I really feel like it's an incredibly good use of time for leaders who are really trying to figure out from a philosophical perspective, how do we make use of these tools? It's been fabulous.
Oh yeah, well, I'll say something about that really quick. Oftentimes leaders, we get wrapped up in everything being partitioned, whether it's technical or if it's very curricular. And the thing about an LMS is it's both. It's an instructional technology tool. And what going through these courses, first of all, connecting with other people is wonderful for networking. You get so many ideas. But what's been fascinating with this, and what I've gotten a lot out of with the leadership cohort here, is it approaches everything from a change management organizational piece that also takes into account the technical and the instructional side, and just kind of weaves them all together. So it's incredibly useful. Like every bit is incredibly useful. So I've enjoyed all of it thus far.
Yeah, awesome.
And I'll just say this is our last week in it, and I'm sad it's over. So I think that speaks volumes of my experience with it. I'll be missing that on my Thursday afternoons for sure.
I will too, actually. I was surprised, to be honest, how much I've looked forward to Thursdays. So again, I can't tell you guys how much I enjoyed this. I hope this is helpful information. I hope that people take away from this that there's a whole network of people out there that can help you. It doesn't have to be complicated. For those of you that are worried about your bulletin boards and your borders matching your peers, that's not what matters most. You know, it's being ready on that first day of school with the content and the resources in place. And so you can always get there. My bulletin boards look awesome my 5th year. My first year, they weren't nearly as good as I thought they were, but nonetheless,
Trenton, you were totally the cool teacher. Let's be real.
I'd like to think so. Yeah.
Yeah, secondary folks, we don't really care about our bulletin boards.
My wife was a secondary teacher, and she teased me all the time. Like, what are you doing? Why are you putting paper on your bulletin board? It's part of the theme. That's why. It looks nice. So anyway, you guys have been great. Mark, thank you for helping facilitate this, and thanks for everybody who joined.
Thank y'all.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.